Right, well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Sashiko class. Now, Sashiko itself, I'll just go through a little bit of history. I'm actually going to show you some samples that I've got in front of me as well, if I can spotlight my hands. Okay. Now, Sashiko, basically, Sashiko is Japanese for little stabs, right? That's what the word actually means. And it is a form of embroidery or a form of stitching that became very popular in like the 1600s during the Edo dynasty. And it was basically a way of fixing poor people's clothes. Okay, because their clothes were mainly made, if they were workers, they were mainly made of indigo dyed hemp, which was quite expensive. And if it got damaged, you had to repair it. So what they would do is they would take other pieces of indigo fabric, put it on top of the tear or the gash or wherever it was thinning, and do these stitches in white over the top. So that's where it started from. It actually started as a way of strengthening and extending the life of the clothes of poor people. And then those clothes would be handed down through the family. So you could end up with a couple of generations wearing the same items of clothing. It was also incredibly cold in Japan, or it is incredibly cold in Japan in the winter, especially in the mountain areas. So this would allow them to build up multiple layers to keep warm. And actually, it's kind of a form of quilting as well, because they would sew those layers together. But what you've actually got, hang on, let me just need to mute my email. Sorry, that's my email pinging. Right. So what you've actually got is a history of multiple layers together, and then that was also used to dress samurai. It could turn an arrow because the layers of clothing were so thick with the stitching and with the multiple layers of fabric. So it's become incredibly popular over the years. And some of those earlier pieces, when they turn up, even though they would just be sort of workers' items of clothing, they're actually quite valuable now. They can be worth tens of thousands of pounds for original pieces of Sashiko stitched clothing, often called boro. So it's very similar. It comes from a similar vein. Now, when we stitch Sashiko, there are a number of ways that we know it's Sashiko. Okay, one is the stitch itself. So you can see here we've got it's basically a running stitch. It's a really simple stitch to learn because it's basically in and out, and we're going to be doing a lot of that today. So one is the fact that it's stitched with this particular stitch. Secondly, there are a lot of popular different patterns. I've made a little sampler here. If you've bought the kit, you've got 4 templates in your kit. Hang on, let me just grab mine, which all have names. So this one is ouch. That one is wave. So which is actually I was going to tell you what it was in Japanese. Hold on. It's, I don't know how to say this, but Sigea is this one. This represents waves. This one is cherry blossom, otherwise known as sakura. So this is a sort of a single motif. Then you have the next one is, this one here is called weights, or fondue. So this resembles little weights that they would have fabric bags filled with something to represent a certain weight, so you could weigh out your food and other items like that. And then this one is called Seven Treasures. So, and this is called Chipu. I think this is how we say them. It does actually say, you might be very impressed there at my Japanese, but it actually says on the packet. All right, so I'll despoil you from thinking my Japanese is incredible. It's not. It's on the packet. But these are some of the traditional patterns. So when you see this, you know it's a Sashiko as well. But because we are modern gals, we like to have a play around with these things. The other thing, by the way, the third thing is the color of the background. Now, this is an indigo fabric, and if you did get the Sashiko kit, that's the fabric you get in here. It is a very dark blue, very dark navy. and that's the traditional color that you would stitch on, with a white thread. But you could sometimes see it, not in the very old pieces because they didn't have white, but they would have a white background with a blue thread, with an indigo dyed thread onto it. But obviously, being modern gals, we like to play around with design. So let's have a look at a couple of other samples and the way you can use it. So this is one that I've recently done, okay, where I've taken the individual blocks. So I've done 3 blocks here. So we've got the cherry blossom in the middle, we've got the weights, and then we've got the 7 treasures. Hang on, I'm trying to move it the right way. So 7 treasures. So I've used 5 of them, made 5 blocks with 3 designs, and then brought them into another fabric that kind of goes with it. So it's now a design feature on an individual piece. So when we're looking at what you're going to do today, you need to think about what you're actually going to do with it, because there are a lot of options. Elaine says that's gorgeous in a quilt. It is, it's very effective, isn't it? And actually what you can do, I stitch these first and then I put them into the quilt. But what you could do once you get a little bit more experience is you could actually, I could have kept these blank and stitched through all of those layers to quilt them. I haven't in this case because that's quite tricky to work through multiple layers. And when you first work with Sashiko, it's a good idea just to do 1 layer at a time. But this is actually done on denim. So we've still got that dark color. We've still got that dark blue, and we've still got the white, and then we've still got the traditional patterns, but it's done on a denim instead. So you can play around with what you actually do with these designs. And then finally, I've got another piece of denim here. I don't know how that's going to show up. There we go. Another piece of denim here that I'm working on, and I'm going to put this into, this is going to be a centerpiece on a block that the fabric that goes with it is going to be red. So I've changed the color. Now, red is another color that you would sometimes see in Sashiko, but it's much more common now in modern Sashiko. And you can see actually where I have drafted out my next lot of stitches so that I'm ready to carry on with this. So we'll talk about marking, we'll talk about laying out your design, we'll talk about what you're going to do with it. But here you go. This is the basic outline of what we're doing today. We're going to be picking designs. It's up to you which ones you choose. And you might want to do a selection of them like this as the sampler. Okay, so this is basically all I've done is I've taken a single piece of indigo. I have then stitched it all and then just folded over the edge with a double fold like that and done a straight stitch. So it's not layered. You can see the back, you can see where all the stitching goes on the back. And we will be talking about this because the back, there's a technique about moving around, and being able to see the back is quite helpful for us as a teaching aid. But I could have layered this up if I wanted to, but I've left it as it is, and it's a sampler. So this could then be a bag if I wanted to, or it could be a pillow. You can really play around with it. You can introduce other fabrics. You can be as playful as you like. So I can see in the chat we've got lots of comments saying it's stunning, beautiful, thank you very much. But what the biggest point about it is, the biggest point about Sashiko is the regularity of the stitch gives it its beauty. So the repetition here in that design is what actually makes it look so beautiful. But it is quite forgiving. If your stitches aren't all exactly the same length, then, you know, over the more you do of it, the less that notices. Okay, it's now we are very lucky. We have templates, and these are not the only designs that you can use Sashiko, using your Sashiko work. There are plenty of them online, and some of them are pictorial as well. There's a traditional one that is like it represents an obi, which is the section of the when you're wearing a kimono, you would have an obi which would go around the waist. It's like a big belt, and you have a representation of that. And then there are more modern designs as well. I've got one at home that is in a drawer somewhere because it's not quite finished. as we know, we all end up with these UFOs, don't we? But it's actually a koi carp that's curving round like this, so it's quite pictorial. But because I want to add more stuff around the outside, I've never actually got around to finishing it. So that's the Sashiko, that's the basic elements of design. And what we're going to do is we're going to get our fabric, we're going to talk about marking and how much you mark, and then how much you space. So let's just have a quick look. Has anybody got any questions at this point? No, you all look good. Fantastic. So Catherine says, I love the sampler, so fresh. Yes, and actually it's beautiful framed up. I've got these little pieces of wood that have magnets inside. So there's 2 of them. So they sort of snap together like that. And I have one, I put one on the bottom and one on the top and just hang it on the wall. And the joy of those hangers is it doesn't damage. I don't have to, it's not permanently held. I don't have to make any holes in my work or sew anything onto the back. I can just snap the magnetic wooden frames on the top and the bottom, and I've got something beautiful to hang on the wall. But then again, this would be gorgeous as a cushion or as the center panel on another quilt. You could have this in the middle and then do like I've done here and have the blocks around the outside, and maybe this is a long center panel in the middle. So I've just done this as a, let's just bring that out a bit so you can see. I've just done that as a single sort of, this could be a cushion cover or something like that, but not in my house because I have cats and I know that there would be a claw would get caught in that in no time at all, and they would end up pulling it. So that's why it's going to be a little wall hanging. So right, let's have a look at the sort of stuff that you need for your Sashiko. Okay, so you've got your background fabric, and it's up to you what size you want to work with. Okay, so today it's up to you. You might find it easier to cut a square and work with just a square. Now each of these designs are 4 inches finished. All right, so hang on, let me just, no, that doesn't help either really. So I was just trying to show you, oh, probably going to show better on that. There we go. So yes, that's what we need to be aware of. This is a 4-inch design, and when you look at your template, you'll see there's an inner line. Okay, so that's the 4-inch. The outside is 4.5 inches. So when we're working on this with our fabric, I would suggest, if you just want to do individual pieces like this, I would suggest cutting at least a 6-inch piece. Because when you hand sew, your stitching can distort. If you cut this precisely, you may find that it doesn't end as a 6.5 inch square piece. Okay, so let's just move these out of the way. So what you want to do right now is decide what you want to work on. I'm going to show you how to draft a slightly bigger piece with more than one design on it. So I'm actually going to do, I think I will do 7 treasures. All right, because I've got a sample to show you already of the waves. But I'll show you the 7. I'll show you the 7 treasures. We'll draft that out and talk about how to make this bigger than your template. Okay, let me find the 7 treasures. Right. Move these out of the way. Now, when it comes to marking, you need to think about how you're going to mark it. So this one I've marked with a heat erasable pen. This is a white heat erasable pen. If you bought your kit or you're using a slightly different, a chalk pen, there is no point in marking the whole lot out in chalk, because as you work and as you touch it, the chalk will come off. All right, so you will need to keep marking as you go along. This is a heat erasable one. Weirdly, it doesn't appear straight away. I found that when I was marking. I took my template off and I was like, where are all my lines gone? And then I came back about 30 seconds later and they'd appeared. So this is an unbranded one that I got off Amazon. and I've only used it to mark this, and you can see how much of the marker it's already used. So I'm not recommending this one because it doesn't last very long, but it does mean that my marking is going to stay there as long as I need it. So just think about what you actually want to do your marking with. All right, so I've got one here, which is a fine blue. I'm hoping it's going to show up on screen enough for you to be able to see my marking. All right, if you bought the kits, there's also a coloured one in there, and a white or a yellow will show up quite nicely. Right, so we're going to look at marking this out and marking it in such a way that we can do long pieces. So I'm just going to get my 7 treasures out of the pack. Now, when you get your templates, you will notice on the back or on the pack, this one, it's actually on the packing here, it does give you an order of stitching, because what you don't want to do is do too many jumps on the back. Okay, so you don't want to jump from there to there on the back because you'll distort the fabric, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's definitely worth keeping the packs that these come in, because they will tell you the order of stitching. Okay, just to help you out. Right, so what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to mark out something that measures 12 inches. All right, because this finished is 4 inches. Okay, so looking at this, this is 4 inches. Actually, I'm going to do 10 inches just to challenge you a little bit. Okay, because this design here, as I said, is 4 inches, which means I would have 2 full ones and a half one, because that will be 2 inches. That will be 1 inch. So if I needed to do 9 inches, I would draw this out twice and then just add that bit onto it as well. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark out a straight line across the bottom. So if I'm going to start here. So giving myself a nice.
Have you got the question there, Sarah, from Laura? Is an embroidery hoop recommended to keep tension?
Actually, no. Well, you can use an embroidery hoop, but traditionally they wouldn't have used a hoop. You just do it in your hand. And the reason is that you need to put a lot of stitches. If you're doing a straight bit, you'll put a lot of stitches on your needle, and you can't do that when it's in a hoop because it's too tight. Okay, so what you'll do is I'll show you, but it's much easier to do in without a hoop, and then you smooth it after you've done a little bit of your stitching. Okay, so I wouldn't suggest using a hoop at this point. All right, so I've done my bottom line there, and as I said, I think I'll do this at 9 inches actually, just so that I can show you how it works. So get my template. Problem with these templates is they're see-through. So this is my line, and that's my start point. I'm actually going to place the inner line here on the line that I've just drawn. All right, let's bring that in a little bit more. All right, so that's going to keep me straight going all the way across. And then we have all of these little gaps. Now, these little gaps are the stitch guide. Okay, so I'm just going to do one set. As I said, I'm using chalk here because chalk is going to be easy to get rid of, but also chalk will disappear as you are stitching. The other thing is I am right-handed, so I'm starting at the left, because if I was left-handed, now as I move, I'm going to start wiping those marks out. So it's a good idea to start from the opposite corner to your dominant hand. Okay. So let's mark along. So that will be 4 inches. And then actually what I quite like to do, just to keep myself straight, is I do 2 sets at a time. So I've just lined up those markers there that I just did, those little dots with that part of the template, and then just mark this one in, because then I know that I'm always keeping everything nice and straight. So this is now, that's 4 inches. This is now 6 inches because I've done another 2 inches. And as you can see, as I said, I'm not marking out all of this. I could, if I wanted to, mark this whole square here, and then once I've stitched that, move on and do this whole square here. What I'm actually going to do is I will come back and mark a little bit more once we start stitching, but not too much, because as I said, I'm showing you here how to draft it so you can make it into a border. And just remember that if this is 4 inches all the way across, that's 2 and that's 1. So that will allow you to actually draft this to any size that you like. So this will bring me up to 8. And then because I want to do this at 9, I need to take, I'm going to line that up there, and I need to take 1 stitch from this end. So we've got 4, 8, 9. Okay, everybody all right with that? Yeah, brilliant. So I'm just going to draft a little bit more. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to start my stitching at this end. I'm going to draft a little bit more upwards so that when we start this, because if we have a look on the back of the template, and the amount of drafting you do is based on the particular design that you're doing. So for example, if we are looking at the waves, with the waves, we work from left to right, which you can see in my sample here. I'm actually doing the bounce. This is also a clamshell if you're a quilter, but I'm stitching across this way and then back again. So each time, each pass, I do twice to fill in. Now that's fine with this design, so I can just draft 1 row at a time. Now the one that we're looking at here, it suggests that you draft it, that you stitch it diagonally. So you will work from the top right down to the bottom left, and then you can go back up again. But actually what I prefer to do, just because you can get in a mess otherwise, especially if you're drafting in chalk, is I would actually do all the way along there, all the way back again, which then brings me up into this corner, which means I can then go without changing my thread or breaking my thread up into this next row here. And repeat. Okay, so I could stitch along there and then come back without drafting everything up, especially in chalk, drafting, working in the diagonal, and then finding that my hand is rubbing out all of this stuff down here. Okay, so traditionally, as I said, it does give you an order of work, but you also need to think about the own limitations of what you're doing and how you're working. The idea of this is that you break your threads as little as possible. Okay, so you don't have to go from sort of, you end up here and then you nip over there and you've got this long thread, because that we don't want. But as you get more experienced, you'll look at it and you'll go, actually, well, if I do this, and actually you can do each one of those and you will end up in the middle, where do you go then? So it's just thinking about where you're going and where you're going to end up. So coming along here like this is one way of doing it, and then coming back and doing the bottom piece. Okay. Also, we're modern girls. We don't have to stick to the exact Sashiko rules as such. we can interpret it how we like. So we can, as I said, with that denim, I'm using denim here and I'm stitching in red. It's still Sashiko. I'm still using the little stabs. I'm using a traditional design, so this is still Sashiko. But it's up to me how I actually interpret it. Okay, so whatever makes you feel more comfortable. Now the thread itself and the needle, you need to have a sharp pointed needle. Okay, not a blunt sort of tapestry needle, because you'll never get it through the fabric. The fabric is quite a fine sort of linen finish, and you do need a nice pointy needle to get through it, but you want a decent size eye so that you can thread it. Okay, so I'm not sure what size it was that came with the kit, but this is one of them. So yeah, I don't know what size this is. It feels quite a good size. So but as I said, there's quite a decent sized eye in there. You see that it's quite long, so I can get the thread through. The thread itself is a single weave thread, and it's generally in white. Oh, it's generally in white, so we've got white with the blue. Another pattern that you'll often see right now is with a white background and the blue thread. So Julianne says the kit has size 3 to 9 needles. I think this is probably about a 5, so it'll be from it is one of those ones. So the bigger your needle, the smaller the number. So the thread itself, this is not stranded cotton. This is a single spun cotton, a single sort of strand. And with the red one, I'm actually using a perlé thread. Again, not completely traditional, but I've got a perlé here, which in the red, which you can use. This one is slightly thicker, but because I'm using a denim, I think that's okay. Again, it's a modern interpretation of a traditional design. You can be very, very traditional by going with the indigo blue and the white, or you can mix it up a little bit to work in with what you want to do. As I said, I'm using this. This is going to go with a border that's red, so I chose to do it in red stitching instead. Right, so I'm going to find the end of this. I had it a moment ago. There we go. And I would say a piece about 20 inches long, okay, which will take me all the way down and part the way back. You don't want it too long because you can get in a tangle, but you don't want it too short either, because you'll be coming back to the and restarting every time. Okay, so I'm just going to cut the end off there. And then I'm going to think, where did I put that needle? Right, so what did I do with my needle? I had it a moment ago. I knew I'd do this when I only picked up one needle this morning. Oh, there we go. I knew I put it somewhere safe. I did. Right, so I'm going to thread my needle. Now, the way I learned to thread my needle is particularly useful when you're doing something quite this fat. You sort of lick your finger and give it a squeeze so it's nice and flat, and then pop it in between your fingers like that and squeeze it, and then push your needle onto it. Okay, and then roll it slightly, and you see that it comes through. That is, I find that much easier. My mum taught me to do that. I find that much easier than trying to do this thing where I'm bringing the thread to the needle, especially when you've got something that can unweave or undo itself. So I'm just going to show you now how to get started. And then you'll be able to have a look at your drafts. I'll answer questions about what you're actually going to do, so you can draft your pattern out, and then we can go start stitching, because this is very simple. All right, it's a very simple stitch and it's a very simple technique. So once you've drafted something out, we can get started quite quickly. Then I'm going to tie a knot in the end of my thread. Okay, because we're only working with one layer, there's nowhere to bury my threads, and a knot is acceptable. All right, so now I'm going to come up, I'm going to start in my corner, I'm going to do the bottom ones first. And this is why you don't really want to have it in a hoop, because what we're going to do is we're going to go down at the end of the marked, up at the beginning of the next mark, and then down, and then up, and then down. And if you're working on straight, this is much easier. But okay, so I'm loading my needle with a few, because what this will do is it will keep that curve nice and consistent. Whereas if you go up and down and do one stitch at a time, sometimes you'll find one stitch goes off slightly at that angle and one at that angle, and it doesn't smooth. So we're going to pull that, and then you'll just give your fabric a little bit of a stretch, because indigo, like this fabric, is very stretchy. All right, so we just give that a little tug so that that's nice and smooth. And then I'm going to continue along to the end. All right, and then I'm going to skip across that gap. All right, do the same thing again. So we're not pulling too tightly. But what you need to do on the back is whenever there is a jump like that, you loosen it off slightly. All right, so we've got a little tiny bit of lack of tension there. And that is so that it accommodates when the fabric stretches as you're using it, and as the item you're stitching is used, the fabric stretches and you don't end up pulling your stitches tight. And then we're going to come back up through, and each one of those little marks that you made is the beginning and the end of your stitch. So we'll see, this will happen quite quickly. It starts to grow quite quickly. So now I'm going to nip across that gap there. Make that nice and smooth. Come over here and put a little loop in the back like that. And then we come back. And they're little stabs, so you're just doing, the stitch on the top is bigger than the stitch on the bottom. But as long as your curve is nice and consistent. There we go. And we start to fill up our design area. Okay, so opening the floor to questions. Anybody got any questions at this point?
There are no questions.
Okay.
Julianne was saying to everybody the kit has needles 3 to 9, so I presume that was something
Yes.
that was mentioned.
It was, yes. I
Yeah.
think because I haven't got the needle pack with me, so I think this is probably this is quite a good size needle that I'm using from the pack.
Okay.
Right. So I'd like to talk to some people. Let's have a chat with some folks. So who has decided what size they are going to work with? Nobody is responding.
have.
Oh, Wendy. There we
Oh.
go. Oh, Bryony. Yeah.
No, Wendy's fine. Wendy's fine.
Hang on. I just saw Wendy there. So Wendy, I'll just ask you to unmute. Hello, Wendy.
Hello.
Right. I'm just going to
Hello.
spotlight you for a moment.
Thanks very much, mate.
There you go, your moment in the light. So what are you going to do?
I'm going to try that wall hanging that you demonstrated at the start. So
Yeah.
I'm going to do 4 rows of the different patterns that you've sent us, just as like a starting point for my Sashiko journey.
I think it's a lovely thing to do because you'll get to play with all of those designs. You've not got a huge area of any one to do. And you also, I think you get that nice feeling of achievement quite quickly. Okay, so when you lay yours out, be generous. I'm just going to spotlight myself again. Hold on, because for some reason Guy has appeared. Hello, Guy.
Yes.
So,
Hey, sorry.
oh no, my hand. Hold on. So when we are
I just
looking,
spotlighted you. We're both trying to spotlight each other. I just spotlighted you. Too many cooks now in the kitchen.
I know. I'm sorry, Rachel. I'm just assuming you're not there.
I'm here.
Well, not that you're not there, but that you're not listening. She's just like, Sarah's talking again. I'll just leave her to it.
Oh dear.
Right. So what I did when I cut my piece, I have left 1/2 inch between each section. All right.
Yeah.
So that I've got a good separation between each one. And I've left about, I cut everything about 2 inches bigger so that I could trim it down at the end. So to make something like that, that's 4 inches, 8, 12. And I think actually looking at this, I say I left enough. I didn't actually leave enough. So you'll see this is only 3 rows instead of 4 because I think I ran out of fabric. I got a bit keen with my chopping down. All right. So I think what I probably did was I went 4, 8, 12, 16, and then forgot about these middle bits when I cut it to start working with. Because obviously if you've got the kit, that's a very big piece. I mean, it's like a meter. Is it 1/2 meter?
Yeah.
1 meter or something like that. It's a big old piece to work with. So just be generous with your cutting down. Okay. And remember to include this. So what I should have done was I should have done 16, 17, 8, probably cut this about 20 inches. And I so didn't. I cut it at about 18 inches, which meant I ran out at the bottom. But if I hadn't told you that, I don't think you would have known. If I just turn it around the correct way, I don't think you would have known looking at that I finished it early. And that's mainly because of the one that's at the bottom. If I'd have had this one, I could have stopped there on that one.
Yeah.
But on this one, it would have been very hard to stop it early. Okay. So make sure when you cut your shape out, you're quite generous. So Kath is going to go for squares. So I would cut your squares to about 6 inches. If you're going to cut them at all, give yourself about 6.5 inches squared, and then do your work and then trim them down afterwards. So thank you, Wendy.
Yes, I will.
The sampler, I have done 2 repeats. All right, so that will be 8 inches, and then I've left a bit. So I actually took about 1/2 inch around the sides, but as I said, this would be 8 inches, and then I would leave a good 2 inches all the way around for you to finish with. So that means I would cut that by about 12 inches. Okay. So
And also
Elaine,
Sarah, Elaine said, can I ask, do you leave the tension loops on the back?
yes, you do. So they just sit there like that. And actually, these all had tension loops on them. And as they've been fiddled with and moved around, you can see they've kind of worked themselves flat. So these are my tension loops where they would have been. But because this has been used and moved and stretched, the tension loops have done their work. So it's nice and flat on the front, and it kind of flattens itself out over the back. Okay.
And we've got to say as well, I've just got to say a quick hello to our lovely Shanna down there. Love her. Shanna in Buffalo. Are you in Buffalo, Shanna? Yes. So it's a little bit early for Shanna at the moment. She said her problem wasn't broadband or anything. It was keeping her eyes open. That was her problem in getting the class.
Is it late night early?
I think it's very early because she overslept. What time is it, Shanna?
6 a.m. now.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. You must really want to learn Sashiko.
I do. I had the alarm set for 4:30 and I got up, but then I laid back down for some reason. I couldn't remember why.
Oh dear.
Well, Shanna is amazing. If anybody wants to follow Shanna, you are Sparrow in Flight, aren't you, on Instagram?
S Sparrow in Flight. There's
yeah.
2 S's.
Yeah, that's right, S Sparrow. And Shanna does a lot of our classes. She is a prolific poster for us, which we are very grateful to. And we love having an American in class.
I can see then Guy says,
Don't tell anybody. Guy has said, any guide on coming to Junction, the direction I go in.
Yes. Okay. So I think my hands are still spotlighted.
They are.
I was right. Okay. So what you're trying to do is continue without having to break your thread. Okay. So for each one of these, I could come to here and go over and then go under, you know, if I want to, as long as I don't back myself into a corner. So with this one that I'm working with, if I just show you what I mean, hang on. So for this one, what I could do is if I drafted out the whole lot, you can go like this, up and down, like that. But then I end up in this corner, and now I'm stuck as to where to go. I would have to break my thread and then start up here and perhaps go the other way. So one way to do this is to think about where you're going to go next. All right. So that's why I like to go across like this. But then what I could do is I could go like this, and then I could come up and then bounce the other way and then come down. It's really up to you. It's about trying to keep the minimal jump between them and also trying to keep those jumps even. So what I do with the waves, because these waves are quite far apart, that one to that one is quite far apart. When I'm doing a wave, I will come down there and I will then do the outside wave, and then I'll do the inside wave. So if I just show you one here, this one is part done. You can see I'm going inside, outside, inside, outside. And the reason for that is this jump here is going to be the same as this jump there, rather than having a small jump and then a big jump. All right, because that'll help you with your tension a little bit more. So I don't know what intersection you're actually coming up to, or what junction you're actually coming up to, Guy. I'll just pop you on spotlight so that I can see. And you're muted at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, you're unmuted now.
Fab.
Sorry.
That really helps, Sarah. Thank you, because it also kind of makes more sense of the direction guide on the pattern. But I am coming up.
You're doing weights.
Yes, I am indeed.
Yes, you're doing the weights. Okay, so when I'm doing
So I'm kind of coming up there.
Yeah, when I'm doing weights,
sorry.
let me have a look. Grab the weight template. Just lay that on the top here because it's sometimes easier to see when you've got a background.
I want to head back.
I'm just looking at this and I'm trying to think which direction I went in. I think the way, oh, sorry, wrong thing, spotlighted. You need to see my hands.
The pattern seems to suggest you head back to your starting point and kind of go
yeah,
back.
I found that quite difficult because this is the pattern here. And it's sort of the one is going that way, but the two is going in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
So I think what I did was I start at one and I come down and I go down and round. Hang on. I go down, round, up to here. So back to my starting point.
Okay.
And then that means then I'm back at the starting point then, and I can come round and do that back to the starting point as well. If I've got more of them, pardon?
I'm just going to say, I think I should have turned right earlier.
Like just looking at the back of this one is I've gone like this and then like that.
Yeah.
And then round, and I've actually treated these two separately. I think that's probably about the length of my thread.
Yeah.
So that's why I've stopped here. But what I could have done is do this pattern, then come around here and then do the next one, which then would bring me back up to here, and I could finish off back there again.
Got you.
But
Brilliant.
that's
Thank
quite
you
a
very much.
long thread. So looking at this, I think that's the way I've done it. Now I've also broken rules on the back of this one, and I'm quite happy with that, because what they would do is they would actually, no, maybe I haven't broken the rules on that one. Maybe that is. No, that is right. That is right. But what I should have, that's the way they recommend it. So I've got crosses in the middle because that's going that way and that's going that way. But you can see here, I kind of broke that rule that I was talking about keeping my jumps even. But you see, they don't cross over. There they cross over, there they don't. I found that my tension was better when they didn't cross, even though on theirs, or on the traditional, it would cross like that in those corners. But you can see in some places I haven't. But again, it's no hard and fast rules. You can tweak one or two of the rules, as in the color, the thread, and the design, and it will still be traditional looking Sashiko. Now I've got some questions here. Jill says, what is the best thread path for cherry blossom? Okay, now this is quite an interesting one. I'm just going to put it onto here. So with the cherry blossom, I go around the outside, then I snip to the inside and come back, go along the outside of the next one a little bit, and then whiz up and do those two threads, and then carry on doing the outside, snip across the inside, start the next petal, and then come up and do these two. So you should see that on the back, where you can see that I've come along here and then whipped up and then carried on with the rest of the petal. Okay, so that's
great.
the best.
Thank you, Sarah.
No worries, Jill. How wide did you say for the sampler, says Joey? I would suggest about 12 inches cut if you're doing it this size, because each of those is 4 inches. So that's going to be 8 inches. You're going to want extra for folding over to make your edges, and you want extra to sort of play with just in case. So I would say, Joey, that you would want it to be 12 inches this way, and I think I said 20 inches from top to bottom, 12 by 20. But obviously the more you add, the bigger you know, if you did 3 of these, that would be 4, 8, 12, and then you would want to add sort of 2.5 inches on top of that as well, or 2 inches either side. So that would be, for 3 of these, I'd go 16 wide. All right, no worries.
Sarah, how do we tie off at the end?
Right, okay, now finishing the ends. Right, so if I want to finish off my end, I'm going to take my thread down and then onto the back, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what you want to do is we need to finish it so that it doesn't show on the front, and we've only got 1 layer of fabric. So what you can do is go a tiny little stitch. Let me just get this done and I'll bring it into the camera for you. Okay, can you see I've just picked up the barest, oh, hang on, left a bit, right a bit. I picked up the barest couple of threads.
Yeah.
I'll tilt that slightly like that. It's underneath the stitch on top. So I want to make sure that I haven't caught that stitch, which I had there. So I don't want to catch that stitch. So it's tricky trying to do it so you can see on the screen.
Yeah, no.
Also, this colour of fabric is a nightmare to photograph and to see. All right, so I'm going to bring that stitch through.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And not pull it too tight, but then I'm going to go back through with my thread.
Yeah.
And tighten that off.
Cool.
So at first, I've got to make sure that I don't catch the thread on the front because you'll distort it. And also I don't want to pull my thread too tight. But that now, I can then snip that off with my invisible scissors. There we go. About there. And that's it.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you can see on the back of these ones. Oh, maybe not. I'm just looking to see. I've trimmed mine a little shorter on the back. Like that. But they shouldn't come undone. And then to start again, all we do is another little knot. And I know as quilters, we're taught not to knot. But with Sashiko, you can. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is using this as a form of quilting, because you can, but it's quite tricky to get such small stitches through multiple layers. You can't load them all up onto your needle in the same way that we are here, because it is just too thick. Even the denim that I'm working on with these is a little challenging. So if you're going to do it through all of lots of layers, what you have to do is do your individual stitch, go straight down like that. And then you kind of slide the needle along the back. All right, so imagine this is a number of layers. So we would go straight down and then slide it along the back until we can pick up the next stitch, but making sure that the needle has gone all the way through. If you're finding you're not picking up any in the back, you will have to do each stitch individually if you're going through multiple layers like that. So you will end up doing this. Which again is fine, but it's a little more time consuming. All right. I like it because we can put a lot of stitches. I mean, that sampler that I did with the blue fabric and the denim, I did all that stitching in one night. I just sat in front of the TV and did each square, just marked them out. This is the one that took the longest, to be honest. I don't know why that took me so long to do. But these ones, they all happened quite quickly. I made up the whole lot in lickety split. In fact, it took me an evening then to put it together as a block. So that gives you an idea. But these go together quite quickly.
Is there a correct way to say it, Sarah? Is it Sashiko?
It's basically either way. It's about the where you put your stress on each of those letters. But Sashiko, it's said in lots of different ways. And if you really want to explore Sashiko or Sashiko more, there is a wonderful author called Sally Briscoe who teaches and has written books about it. And I went on one of her workshops, oh goodness me, probably about 7 years ago. And I mean, the stuff that she does with it is absolutely amazing, and her books are beautiful. And I'm just looking to see if my book by her was here in my studio. And
I've got some. It's Susan Briscoe, isn't it?
Susan, that's it, not Sally. Sorry, Susan. Yes, Susan Briscoe. It's a I think she's done a couple of books now, and they are beautiful. And she also takes it to a sort of another level and uses it a lot in quilting. As she does a lot of pictorial designs and things like that as well. So it's the same stitch, but she develops it further, and it is absolutely beautiful. So if you really like that, I would suggest going and having a look on your local book purchasing store
her Japanese quilt blocks book is stunning.
Yes, it is. I've got that one too, because that's the one. Yes, because they mix beautifully together. Let's just, I'm just going to spotlight you for a second. Yes, I've got her. That works beautifully as well with it, because the themes are very similar and the designs are very similar too. It's a beautiful book.
Stunning.
So I'm a big fan. And she brought along, I don't think it's in that book, I think it's in the other book. She's made this big quilt, and she had a Sashiko Buddha in the center, and then all of these patchwork blocks and Sashiko blocks as well. And she brought it, and I tell you, you could have heard a pin drop in that room that day, because I've never seen anything so stunning in my entire life. So anyway, that's additional sources. She also goes and teaches it in Japan, which just goes to show, you know, she knows what she's talking about.
She does know what she's talking
Jennifer,
about.
Sorry.
So I was
Sorry?
just going to say, I'm using the ones from the templates from today's quilter that from ages ago they came in, and they're not as good as the ones you're using, because it's just the whole line. I'm trying to find something dark to hold it up against.
Okay, let's
the whole line. So yours is very it shows where you can go in and out, whereas because it's so big, I'm sort of, it's, you know, I'm still happy with it, but it's a bit all over the place and certainly not as uniform as yours.
Yes, the thing is, there are different ways that you can mark these out. Now you can also buy pre-printed panels, which has the stitch lengths marked on them, which really helps because you've got something to follow. But yes, maybe investing in some of these sort of templates where you've got the individual stitch lengths, it just helps you keep them even, because the thing is, it looks like they're really close together here, but they're not. It's because you've got to get your pen in. So whereas you've only got a solid line to
I've got some of those the panels. I got them when that website, the television site, got closed down. So important. And I got loads of bits, but I just didn't have the confidence to start it. So I thought, well, I'll just use these because surely they're fine. But it does certainly make a difference as to how the ones that everyone else is doing that are using your templates are certainly
because it's giving you that sort of definition rather than just a solid line. But you see, once you've got to grips with it, you can go back and use those templates, because you'll have a sense of how big your stitches actually should be and how you should space them out.
Yeah, definitely.
Marvelous. Right, so Jasmine, you look like you wanted to say something. Are you all right there, Jasmine? Yeah,
I found something. Is it Sue Briscoe?
That's it, Susan Briscoe. Yeah, that's and you can see at the bottom. Yeah, exactly. You can see there are so many designs. In that one, you're looking in the top. There's 3 on the wall. Yeah, 3 in frames. Yeah, that one in the middle, that is the weights one that we're working with. Is one of the ones in your kit. So, and I mean, the scope of the craft is absolutely incredible. There's so many different designs that you can do, and the idea behind them basically is a repetition. It is repetition. Sometimes it's floral motifs, or quite often geometric shapes, so lots of straight lines as well as the curved ones we're working on. You can draft your own designs if you want to. The joy with the ones we're using is they're all a fixed size, so you can mix and match them because they all finish at 4 inches. But I mean, there's some stunning stuff in there that you just think, how? But it's all this same stitch. It's just a straight stitch. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you. So we've lost Jasmine now. She's just in there going, wow.
Do you know, Sarah, does Susan work on Hochanda?
She's on something.
I think she has been on Hochanda.
Because I work with a lady who did Sashiko, and she does the tours in Japan.
Yeah, dark art. Now there's a couple. There's Japanese Arts, which is a lady with short red hair.
That might be her.
then Susan has dark curly hair.
No, so I think Susan is on the, or was on the sewing channel.
I think, yes, I think probably Susan will be on
the sewing channel. I was going to say that Jennifer Taylor did a wonderful golden rule jacket, and she put some borrow work on it, and it just added that. And you start to look at things and think, actually, I could do a bit of Sashiko or a bit of borrow work on all sorts of things, you know.
It looks amazing on denim.
Yeah.
But it's kind of back to that. I think Gary did a visible mending, didn't he? Rachel did a visible mending class.
He did. It was lovely.
And that's where that's where that tradition has come from. You know, it's that idea of, you know, you've got to fix something, but being functional can also be beautiful. So it comes from that sort of, it's a similar period when in the UK, over there, they were doing Sashiko and it was for poor people. But at the same period in the UK, it was black work and it was for rich people. So that was a similar period, the 1600s, and they come from a similar background. The black work that was going on in the 1600s in the UK was on a white background because it was for rich people's cuffs. Obviously, keeping anything white was almost impossible, so they would stitch in black stitches on it so that you wouldn't notice that they were not pristine and white anymore. Whereas over in Japan, it was actually sort of the other end of the social scale, but it performed a very similar function. It was to repair and stabilize and to keep warm. So I love all the, I'm completely obsessed with patchwork quilting and sewing. And one of the things that really excites me about it is that social history. It's about how, where things came from, animal skins, and there's always been that need that we have to make something lovely, as well as just, you know, they could have just stitched the seal furs together, but they did it in such a way that it was quite decorative, and I think that's amazing. And the way these ideas sort of spread around the world, and you can see similarities because people are using things in a similar way. But at the time this was happening in Japan, it was a closed society. Nobody left the island of Japan. So this didn't kind of spread in the same way. So Sophie says, do you know how traditionally they transferred the template or pattern onto the fabric, or was it done by eye? Now, one of the things they used to use was a chalk dabber. We often use those now, where you've got a little bag, muslin bag, and you fill it with chalk dust. You've got a template which has got holes in it. And actually, if I come back, and they would get their dabber and they would go over the thing with holes in. And then when they lifted it up, the chalk will have gone. So I've used that in dressmaking patterns before now. That's how we mark out some dressmaking designs. But you have a wheel that makes the hole in the paper. You've seen those?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and they do the same thing, but with chalk dust.
Okay.
Because the thing is, marking it out by eye, you would have to have some grids and something to follow, because it's very hard to keep everything straight when you're holding it by hand. So I can see Laura there has said, can I show how to tie off again? I can. So I'm just going to go back into my thread here, onto the back. Because another way, what I did there was two tiny little stitches that are just picking up the barest of threads, like this, literally. Okay. Another thing that you can do is go back through this previous thread like that, but you mustn't pull it tight, and then pull the knot itself tight. So that's another way of doing it, but you mustn't pull the thread on the back, on the front tight, because that will cause puckers, and we need to maintain that tension. So all I did there was I went back through a previous stitch like that, and then through that loop to make a little knot. But I'm not pulling this bit tight. Okay, I'm pulling the knot tight. And making sure that I've still got that loop there, my little tension loop. Okay. So there are 2 ways of doing it, whichever one you feel more comfortable with. The other one, as I said, is you do a couple of stitches, not going through onto the front, but just sitting behind the stitch on the top. So if you do come through a little bit, that's hidden. Because obviously if I do that here, you would see that, and we wouldn't want to see that. So you do it underneath the previous stitch. Right, Rachel, I was thinking we could stop for a tea break because it's 20 to 12.
Absolutely.
I can't believe how that is nearly 2 hours gone.
I know.
How's that flown? So if we stop now for say 10 minutes, you can all have a quick comfort break, go have a cup of tea, go make a cup of tea. My coffee is empty, so I need to go and fill up. Look at my mug, Rach.
Let's have a look. Oh yeah. Yes.
I still use it. It lives here.
Well, that's good because it was
keeps my coffee warm.
Yes, very true. All meant.
Hug in a mug.
Hug in a mug.
So yeah, let's come back at what time was it? 22. Come back at 10 to. If you want to sit there and carry on sewing, then you can. And as I said, I'm going to go grab a cup of coffee and I'll see you back here in 10 minutes. Is that all right, Rach?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much, Sarah.
Well, I don't know. I do FaceTiming with my best friends all the time. We've been doing that for years.
Yeah.
And they're over in South Dakota, and you know, I'm here on the eastern side. So we've sewn together for years, and it's just as lovely as having it in person. You can really capture that. You just have to be patient with yourself.
True. Well, I mean, because this is amazing, isn't it? Just to be able to, I said this to you before, didn't I, Rachel? Just to be able to sit down and sit and chat, because my husband isn't interested in what I do. So it's just to be able to chat to people. And
but it's funny, Bryony, because quite a few people have emailed me. Like one lady called Azina, who comes on a lot of our. She does a lot of like Nicholas Ball and now Lucy Engel's classes. She emailed me yesterday and said, you know, thank you so much, and you know, I'm begging you to please keep this going when this is all over. And it's like, if I don't keep this going, I won't have a business. You know, this is now. I keep saying to people, this is now the way forward. Yes, I'm going to do a retreat, but this is a brilliant discovery that I know obviously it came out of necessity in the beginning, but it is a great thing to do, you know. And I said this in another class, apologies if you were in that class, but I did say I think that when people do get their normal lives back, that actually the Zoom thing will be more enjoyable, because I think people will have, you know, have got normal life. They won't mind sitting in front of a screen as much. I think at the moment people are a bit like screened out, but I think when people get normal life back, then the screen is just an alternative. It's not the only thing. So yeah, we're definitely keeping going.
I know it is more affordable, isn't it, as well? So people that you either want to jump in, and I mean, I want to hug you, Rachel, and I'm sorry it's coming after when you get that jab. I'm on the way, but you know, but these are just brilliant to be able to do these. It just means you can do so many other little bits, can't you? You know, whatever variety of thing you can come up with, where you can all sit and do together.
Yeah,
well, exactly. This is what we're talking
about what you're taking, what you're packing, because it's all around you, isn't it? In the disarray that is our craft rooms.
Yeah.
But I was saying to Rachel that today's class would be different to a lot of the other ones that I'm teaching on Zoom, because once I've shown you the technique, we're just sitting sewing together. I'm not giving you huge amounts of instruction, because that's not required. It's more we're sitting together and sewing, and you know, just having a bit of a gas and a bit of a gossip.
I've missed it. And Sarah, you're getting a hug as well.
That's all right, I don't mind.
Don't care if you do, it's coming.
There's something though about the CraftyMonkies community though that is a little different, because I've taken classes online, I've done Crafty, I've done, you know, in person, but there's just something, I mean, that's why I get up at, you know, 4:30 in the morning to come do classes, you know, because there is something specific about
time in the morning. Oh,
yeah. It's dedication, Shanna.
Well, I have another one this afternoon too. So, you know, so there is something special about this community that makes it where you can sit down and have tea and you know, do your sewing. And because I've done all sorts of different classes over the years, and I sent a little rage letter to Rachel because I was in the middle of a Zoom class in my local quilt shop, and it was absolutely dismal. It was awful. And I don't know, this is quality stuff here. So
say though, Shanna, do you own a shop? Because you've got like a fabric store.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing.
Beautiful.
No, that's just my craft room.
Wow. We have room envy, Shanna.
We know where we're going for the retreat now.
Oh yeah, well, actually,
Colorado.
This is just a little just a little bit. I just started, or you know, organizing some more. I use magazine boards, so you can put them on IKEA shelves and stuff.
Actually, I used to have a shop, and we used Billy bookcases by IKEA.
Yep.
That was when I went and spoke to people. I said, "How do you display your fabric?" They all went, "Billy bookshelves." So that's what we did, because they're just the right height for a bolt of fabric.
Just the right height. Yeah, and magazine boards and stuff make it so that the fabric is. I found that, you know, putting the fabric out so I could see it all the time inspires me so much more, and I can get to it, you know, and use it, and then I have to buy more, but you know, sorry.
But you've never got quite the color you need. Paul says to me, I'm going, I need this color, and he comes in and he comes to my sewing room, and I've got something very similar, but it's all fat quarters, and he's going, what, none of these work? And I'm going, no, precisely, none of them.
None.
I can see Deborah, I'm just gonna highlight Deborah.
Yes.
Hold on. Yay! We have a finished cherry blossom.
Lovely.
Well done. But you're quite a fast stitcher, aren't you, Debs?
Not on hand stitching.
I've cheated. I've done an easy one.
Oh, hang on. We got Bryony. Oh, actually, Bryony, that's worked out beautifully.
It's not bad, is it?
You said the stitches weren't easy to follow. That looks really even.
I've unpicked a couple.
They're supposed to look like little bits of rice. That is the idea.
Yeah.
When you do your stitch, because of the thread we're using, it makes them kind of go a sort of the shape of a piece of rice. It kind of shapes itself like that. So, who else have we got? Anybody else who's got a bit they want to show us?
I have.
I can see Liz there. Hold on, let me find Liz. Oh, Liz, that's coming along nicely.
And I
you
have
happy
been
with that?
messing around. Look.
Oh,
ooh.
Move it that way a bit. Move it to your left a bit.
Sorry.
That's nice too.
Oh, that's nice.
Lovely.
Lovely.
I can envisage lots of you now going online and downloading other patterns or buying the panels. Now you've had a go.
That's lovely.
Jasmine,
Liz just held up another one there.
Oh, okay. I'll come back to Liz in a second. Liz.
Oh, Jasmine, your weights are looking lovely.
Nice.
Yeah. It's going to be a little coasters. Do you call this for this muffin? You know?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
coaster. Yeah. Coaster. Nice idea. Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Let's go back to Liz. Thank you, Jasmine. Let's go back to
Someone for Christmas bought me it's going to be a box when it's finished. So I've been fiddling, but it's not wonderful on the back because that's what I wanted to learn properly.
Yes.
But it's going to be lined, so you won't see the inside of it.
No.
I love the sampler. I want to do the sampler. So
just remember, you're not traveling too far between stitches, and the reason for that is that the hemp that we're using is quite stretchy, and if you go too far, you end up with your thread becomes too tight and it starts to
pull. But I'm really enjoying this because I'm classed as vulnerable, so I've been stuck in, apart from being in hospital with this ankle, which is much better.
Oh, bless
since
you.
last February,
Yeah.
and I haven't said much this morning. It's lovely to hear all these people talking.
I
You
know.
know, it's my husband and I, and it's really good to, apart from one trip to the hospital a week to have a dressing, I haven't really seen anybody. So it's,
well, if you will
sat
throw
here
yourself
quietly.
on the floor, Liz, if you will throw yourself on the floor in the bathroom, then what?
No, but it's really lovely to hear people chatting, and you know, so I've been quiet, but I'm listening. I'm really enjoying my morning.
I did warn you, Rachel, that this class, when we were talking about editing this down, I said, by the time you come to edit this down,
It's going to be
about
13 minutes.
The rest is going to be
13-minute
gossip.
class.
But you know what? How much fun has everyone had?
Oh,
it's lovely.
Yeah.
It's just,
This is a very low pressure workshop. There is, you know, once you've worked out what you're going to do, how to draft it, it's just sewing.
yeah.
So much fun.
That's the pleasure of this particular class, I think, because we're not rushing to get things finished. We're not sewing machines. People aren't having problems with needles, and just very calming and very relaxed.
It's very relaxing.
I need this one
Very.
a week.
I do have one sewing question to help you keep up your content.
Oh, God.
Dare you.
Sorry. Bit dull. What are the
I
circles?
just sat up straight then.
What are the circles on the templates for, Sarah? There's
Sorry,
like
say that again.
Sorry, what are the holes in the templates for? There's little kind of circles cut in them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Them, don't they?
Really.
Sorry.
I don't know.
They connect them, don't you? They connect them onto the next.
Yes, if we get 2 of them now. Hang on, I can't find another. What have I done with my other templates? Okay. Hang on. They should. Actually, they're not what I thought they were.
I thought
that's a good question, because they're in different places.
They were for your fingers to hold it.
Yeah, I was going to
using
say
it
that's
pin.
what I've used them for. I've used them
Ooh.
on my
I put
hand.
pins through them.
Oh, that's a good
so
idea.
Good
Oh,
idea.
that's a good idea.
There we go. Yeah, you could pin
You know
through them, but it gives you somewhere for you to hold the fabric underneath, because when you're drafting, especially when you're using this one, okay, this one, the proper fabric, it is quite stretchy.
Yeah.
So what you need to be doing is holding it so that it doesn't stretch too much, but you need to be able to hold inside as well. But I've not noticed that they're on different places. I suppose they're just in a gap, really.
Yeah.
That's why the locations are different, because there happens to be a gap there. This one actually is interesting. When you come to draft it, you do have to remember which way you do it. That's why it's got the word Sashiko on it, because if you draft some that way and then some that way, that's not symmetrical, whereas that one is symmetrical. So it doesn't matter if you do it that way or that way. But with this one, if you're doing a row of them and you want them to match, you need the text to be the right way up. But I don't know if there's another use for it, but I always thought the holes were there so you could hold it.
Or hang on the wall.
Or hang it on the wall, yes. Because all my rulers have these holes as well. But yeah. So also with this one, remember you've got horizontal lines here to line everything up with, because you could place it
on the wall
diagonally as well if you want to.
Yeah.
So that you've got 2 flat bits on the bottom. But there you go.
I like the fact that we can use this as well for the big stitch quilting, can't we? So what can you, or because it just gives loads more designs, doesn't it?
It does. The thing with going through when you're quilting is that obviously you're going through lots of layers. So you can't, as I said earlier, you can't really load up your needle in the same way with all of those stitches. And keep them so small. So if you're doing big stitches, you still can. You come down straight like that, and then come up through to the next one, and then you find your position, and then find the next one, and then go down straight, because if you come in at an angle like we normally do with this, the stitch on the back is so small in comparison. It's all right on here, but if you're doing that through quilting, it's very hard to get through all of those layers. So the rocking motion with quilting, instead of just going backwards and forwards like that, it's very much down like that, straight down, and then rock. Find your position, straight down, and then rock. Does that make sense?
Sophie, by the way, wants to ask a quick question. Yes, Sophie, my darling, what's your question?
Sorry, to Sarah. I'm not sure how.
Wow.
I feel like, thank you. But it feels like it gathers up. Is that correct or a problem?
It's not too much of a problem, but you've got to be careful and keep your stitching loose.
Yeah,
so that's why we're putting that looseness in the back, because it's very easy to pull that thread tight. So do you remember
that's
when
what I'm doing?
Putting those loops in? Rachel, can you come to my hands, please?
Yes, I will when I find you.
And is there a way to kind of flatten it now that I've done it, or it's kind of too late? I don't think you can see.
Because once it's finished and you've got rid of all the chalk, if you iron it, it should flatten itself out a little bit. But Rachel, can you see when I sewed this, those were loops. They're not loops anymore, because the movement around. So this is the sample that I've drafted earlier, and I put those loops in. Those loops, there's still a little one there and here, but the rest of them have kind of disappeared. But what you can do is so I've got this far. All right, what I could do is come back a bit. And get in there, obviously not with a thing like that. I need a pin or something like this. And just even out, moving back for the worst areas. So it'll take time, but you're sort of reinstating those loops, because with the best will in the world, the fabric that we use for Sashiko is quite stretchy. And as you work with it, it will stretch in ways that you haven't even thought of, which is why it's quite important to keep these little loops on the back. Because you can see I've done a loop with all of them, but they've pretty much all disappeared now and flattened themselves out. So you can go, as I said, but you can only go back as far as you've not tied off your knot.
Yeah, I've kind of tied off the knots.
Yeah, but again, what you could do if it's really bad is just unpick it here, sort of, cut the thread and unpick it to here and finish off again, but loosen back and then just restitch these bits.
Okay.
So there are ways around it, but yes, it does have a tendency to bobble and to stretch because of the fabric that's used, the linen. It does have it's very mobile. But it doesn't happen too much with the denim because that's a lot more structured.
But the end effect, it should be really flat, not like Cantha, where it's very, the idea is to have
not quite as much as Cantha, because Cantha is designed to give you that ridge and that wave look. That's actually what you do with that. This should be a bit flatter than that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, super, thanks.
Let's have a look. So have we got some more? Oh dear, Laura's having traumas with the dishwasher men. We all have days
like that. Can I see the sampler again to see how far down you did on each pattern?
Right, so there you go. That should be the sampler there. So I've done just one width of all of them. So that's the weight. That's the 7 treasures. That's the blossom. But I didn't quite do the whole wave. So if we actually have a look at the wave template, which is around, the problem with these templates is because they're clear, it's like they disappear.
Oh, I see there were 4 arches on the original template.
Yes, so I've had to end at 3 because if I had 4, I didn't have enough for my edges. So then to finish these edges, all I've done is folded over those edges twice. So folded it, pressed it, folded it again. So I've got no raw edges. You see, they're all in there, and then I've just done a simple running stitch around the outside, which is actually how a lot of the quilts that I got in India are actually finished. This is how they finish their edges. They just fold it and then do a running stitch, and I think it finishes it really nicely because it's almost like it frames it. And you could actually do perhaps two layers of the stitching around the outside, so it's almost like in card making when you mat and layer. It's kind of got that look to it too. I think it's a lovely technique because it's quite stylized, because it's got that sort of monochrome look. And as I said, I'm doing it in different colors just to play around with it. Red is still a traditional color that you would see in old pieces of Sashiko, but not as common as the white and blue combo. And I'm loving doing it with denim. It's great fun.
I think I've seen some variegated threads, which are rather nice as well.
Exactly. Yeah, you can really play with it and make it look modern. Because there are three elements to it. One is the blue, one is the white, and one is the pattern. And you can play fast and loose with any of those, as long as you sort of keep one of them. So, you can really turn it on its head. By changing perhaps the color you're working on or the background color that you're working on. The hanger, so Sue says the hanger that you're going to use to hang it, what is it called? Actually, it's going to be on my show, Sarah's Sewing Studio, next Sunday. I brought them back in because they were so popular last time, and they're basically a beach hanger with magnets in either side, but I can't remember what they're called. But as I said, they'll be on there. So I know quite a few of you bought them anyway. But it's a great way of displaying, because you've got the strip at the top of wood, and you've got a strip at the bottom, and then you've got a hanger on the top, and it just looks great. And actually, if you go to the CraftyMonkies website and look at the pictures, the sample pictures for this, you'll see that's what I used in the picture of the sampler when it's hung on the wall. So Sue says, lovely, thank you. How do you go from one row to the next, says Laura. Okay, so it depends on which pattern you're doing.
I'm doing this one.
I can't. Oh yes, all right. So
I get the idea you go underneath on one, back on the other, but then I find I'm at the bottom. How do I join on to the next row above?
Now with this one, you see, on mine, if I was stopping here, when I come up, that's an up movement, and I would just move on to the one above. But here, that end is a down. So when I come down here, if I can, I would come up and loop into that one. But if I've not come back on this route this side, then I'd actually have to break my thread, because what I don't want is a thread running from here to here, because that will stretch and that will distort your fabric.
I just tied a knot and cut it off. So that would be the thing to do if I haven't got one to go back up again.
Yes, if you're traveling from here to here, that's fine. But you would not want to travel from there to there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because that's just too far. Actually, that sounded really bossy, didn't it? But what I mean is it'll affect the overall look, because this will stretch and distort. And if you've got threads that are sort of that long, they will start to get untidy. All right.
Sarah?
Yes.
Can you see?
Oh, that's Julienne. Let's have a look. Oh, hang on. Let me just spotlight you. Oh, that looks lovely.
Not got very far, but
no, but you from a standing start, not having done it before.
Nice with just the half.
Done it before.
It looks so even.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that looks really nice. So I think the trick, if you're using a chalk, the trick is not to mark too much up.
Yeah.
But once you've stitched, you've got something to line the template on again.
Yeah.
Because with the chalk, it does rub out, and it depends on how good your chalk is as well.
Right.
So well done. Have we got? Good. I'm pleased. Looks lovely. What are you going to make with it?
Pardon?
What are you going to make with it?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure.
You could just do that and make a cushion cover, just a whole cushion cover, just with that.
Oh, that'd be nice.
That would look lovely.
That'd be lovely, yeah.
It would, yeah. Brilliant. Have we got, actually, let's have a look. We've got about another 15 minutes or so. I've not heard from Jane. I can see you down there, Jane. You've not said a thing today. I hope everything's... Let's have a look and see what you're up to, because you're unusually quiet, my lovely. You're muted at the moment.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, you can't unmute. Oh, that's why you're quiet today.
If I've just pressed it, I've just asked you to unmute. There you go.
Oh, there you go. You're unmuted now.
Oh, we still can't hear you.
Oh no, you're still not. But
maybe
it might be that your
microphone's not
sounds
on your computer, because you are unmuted. It's saying unmuted, but it must be the something to do with the preferences, the microphone.
But don't worry. Let's have a look.
Oh,
that's looking lovely. So you're going to be doing the little blocks. Well done. Right. So who else have we got who'd like to show us what they've been up to?
Ruthie. And then I'll come to Sue Clark.
Hello, Ruthie, baby.
Hiya. Just there we go.
Wow. My goodness.
Oh, wow.
And are you doing yours through? Have you got a backing on yours as well, or is it denim?
No, that's denim. It's just a scrap of denim. I thought I won't start on a big piece of fabric. I'll practice on a little one. But I thought that would make a nice pocket on a bag.
Exactly. Hold it up again.
Lovely.
That's again so neat and so quick. I think Sashiko as well. It's quite a mindful thing to do because you've got a rhythm. You know, you're not having to count anything. You're not having to worry about technique or anything. Once you've got the idea of the sort of stitch like that, it's quite mindful or mindless maybe.
I found it useful having like the stitch length there for me because my eyes are not great, so I tend to go a bit wonky. There'll be bigger stitches and little stitches, so having like it set made it easier for me. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it, and just listening to everybody's voices has been...
It's nice, isn't it? So Guy says envious of everybody else's speediness, and Angela says, oh dear, I haven't done as much as everyone. So don't worry, you guys.
But
Dana
listen,
says,
yes, monkey motivation. What was the quote last week from Mark Twain? Comparison is the thief of joy. Do not compare yourself to anybody, because you know, as I said in my roundup last week in the circles class, you know, again we had a lady who was saying, oh, I'm way behind, and then Lucy Engels, the teacher, said, I actually am still pinning, and she was the teacher. So you know, don't ever compare yourself to anybody else and what they're doing. Says she, who Sarah Payne will know, compares herself to everyone and pull myself to pieces. So I'm trying to learn as well.
But Angela says, Shanna says, don't worry, Angela, I haven't got an actual stitch because my templates aren't here yet.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh.
I'm reassured my speed will come in time. It's just
let's have a look.
So not so much speed. My my competence will grow over time. That's the thing that I'm after. So that's the first one.
Oh, that looks nice.
Oh,
nice and even.
Lovely.
Good guy.
Yeah.
And then my second one is coming along nicely.
Oh, we can't see that.
Can't see that one.
Come back a bit.
Back a bit. Oh, there you go. Yeah, you've got that. That's the seven treasures.
And just as an aside to that, two things. My machine quilting has come on hugely since Sarah Ashford's class that I did in the summer last year.
Yes.
And I can see my progress, which is so pleasing, so satisfying. And again, just on other class ideas, any more hand stitching or introductory pieces around embroidery would be really interesting for me.
Perfect.
Okay.
Sarah, that's my attempt at Sashiko.
Wow.
Oh,
lovely.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, that is lovely.
It's lovely to see how far people have got.
Yes.
But don't worry if you haven't got it finished, because that's the joy of it. You can pick it up and put it down. The only thing you have to think about is how you've drafted it. So as I said, for this one, this is a heat removable. So this is going to stay here until I iron it. But if it's chalk and I keep moving this around, it might not last, and then I have to go back and put it in again. I've just seen a question from Elaine.
Yes.
She said, can you show how to navigate around the 4 templates? Can we call Elaine up, because I'm not quite sure what you mean about
no, it's just
that.
I've only done I've just done the one so far. I'm loving it. But I'm not sure, based on the instructions on the back of the card, how to do where to start and finish on the other designs.
Okay, no worries. I'll go through that very quickly, and then Rachel, if we can have a quick look at what everybody's done. Now this is the waves, okay, and with the waves, basically you're going backwards and forwards like that. You can see on here that to keep my stitch movements equal, I go on the inside of one wave and then to the outside of the next wave and then to the inside, because when I come back again, so I'll get to the end here, just move that slightly, I'll get to the end here, flip over to do that, and then bring back, and the gap here is the same distance. Rather than having a small travel and a big travel, they're both equal by popping inside and out. So that's on the wave. With this one is a little bit more complicated, the cherry blossom. Let's see if I've got the pattern here to show you on the back what it actually, so what it's saying here, this sort of mess, it does look a bit complicated, but basically you start at this point in the center, and then you travel around the outside, then you travel back on the inside, and you start to travel along the outside of the next petal, and then you whip up and do these 2 bits. So you come up. So what I do is I do the first stitch, then I go up and then down, and then I come on to do the second stitch of the next one. So again, outside to here, travel, back up the inside, first stitch of the next petal, whiz up and down for those, second stitch. All right, so that means that I'm doing everything in one go, and that's basically what this is telling you. So it's going outside, inside, a little bit along, up the stamen, down the stamen, and carry on around the outside again. So you're doing each petal as a complete one before we go. Okay, so that one I think looks a little bit complicated. With this one, this is the one that you've done, and it does tell you on the pack that you're doing this and you're coming up and down, but if you're marking with chalk, it means you've got to mark a whole lot of it in order to be able to stitch, and the chalk comes off. So you can actually do what I've been doing, which has been the bounce across the bottom here. So you can see I'm bouncing, and then again I've just changed it slightly. So on this one I'm going top to bottom, so that this distance here is the same and that distance there is the same. But that's personal choice. You can go all of the ups or an up and a down, an up and a down. It's up to you. But I find it easier to work in that direction. Now this one, I've actually worked these as 2 halves. Okay, so I've worked that one and then I've worked that one. So for this one, I've started in one of the center points and gone all the way around that piece back to the center, and then I can come all the way around back there to the center and then stop. Okay, but the center of this is the same as the center of that and the center of that. So as I said, what I've done is I've treated that almost as a separate one and then that as a separate one. But as you get used to it, you might decide that as you come to this one, well, I'm going to move down there and then I'm going to do the same again. But this bit will have already been completed. So you have to think about where you're going to end. Does that make sense? Which is why I treated it like that, because I didn't have to think about it. I basically broke off my thread and then did that one. And then to finish the sampler, if you want to do it as a sampler, I've just folded over the edges, given them a good press, and then sewn them down with a running stitch. And as I said, there are a ton of different designs that you can do with Sashiko, and they'll all have their order. But the rules that you are trying to follow are that you don't want to have to jump from here to here. So you wouldn't start in the middle, do that, and you're now in the middle there, and then jump to the middle of the next one. Because the thread that's on the back here, it would not give with the fabric, and it would end up causing stretching and puckering. Yeah. So whatever order you decide to use, you have to think about where you're going to finish and end. And actually, with this, if you did that petal and then that flower and then that flower, you would be breaking off your threads quite often. Now, again, that's not a huge concern. It's better than traveling, but it takes longer if you stop. Whereas if you work in this, like this, along here and then back again, if you find yourself in a corner that you can't get out of, so for example, you come down here and now you're finished, you can't get up there, just break your thread and start again up here. So it's not the end of the world if you break your thread. It's just time consuming and you don't want to break it too often. So for something like this, you will break your thread after you've done the whole thing. Okay. Hope that helps, Elaine. Does that answer your question?
It does indeed. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Elaine Workman, do you have anything to show us? Let's show Elaine first of all. Brilliant.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, Elaine, that looks great.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Lovely.
Now, give us a thumbs up if you've had fun. That's what we'll do, rather than, because we've got to get through everyone. So yeah, brilliant. Well done, Elaine.
Bryony.
Hello.
Hello.
I've got two. I didn't want to start a third one because I'm using chalk and it will just disappear.
Lovely. That looks really nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, not so good close up, but I'll take that. Thank you.
Lovely work. Lovely work. Thank you.
No one will know.
Helen is next.
Oh,
That's
nice.
We do like that.
Yeah.
That is lovely. Well done, Helen.
Thank you, Helen. Jasmine is next. Oh, are you all right, Helen? Yeah, she was putting a thumbs up.
Wow. Yeah, Jasmine's got cracking on as well now.
Lovely.
So I expect to see a quilt by the end of the day.
Thank you, Jasmine. Sarah Corson is next. Hello, Sarah.
Wow. That looks lovely. Well done.
Nice.
Are you going to carry the treasures around the outside as a border? Or are you going to cut them down?
I think so, although I don't think I've left enough room at the top, so I'll see.
It looks lovely. Have you had fun?
Yes, thank you.
Brilliant.
Well done.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Jan Baker is next. There you go.
Crikey, Jan, you're cracking on.
Oh, wow. Cracking on.
Wow.
That looks fabulous. Well done.
Yeah. Thank you, Jan. Catherine Morgan's up next.
Oh.
Catherine.
Put my needle down.
Oh,
Wow,
lovely.
again.
Brilliant.
Nice.
That looks
Very neat.
fantastic.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Well done.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Catherine. Angela, how about you? Have you got anything there, my lovely?
Oh,
Very nice. Very neat.
I really enjoyed it.
Ah, good.
Good.
Good. Thank you, Angela. Sue Clark with the beautiful purple wig.
yeah. Oh, it's lovely.
Oh, very neat. That looks very nice.
So neat.
Well done, Sue.
Thank you.
Linda?
Oh, dropped it just at the wrong minute.
Just about see.
Oh, yes, we can just, yeah, because the light is behind you. It's the wave, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Yes, lovely. Well done. You've done quite a lot.
Oh, I didn't think I'd got that far, but yeah, it's really good.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Lovely.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Linda. Tracy Chantry.
Hi, Tracy.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness, Tracy.
So much work.
Wow.
There you go.
That's brilliant.
That's lovely. And actually, that would make a really nice little pillow, just as it is. Just a little cushion. Oh, you're going to keep going.
Yeah. I've just ordered one of the frames.
Oh, right. Okay.
Nice.
Yep, so you can display it all nicely.
Yeah, they're called poster hangers, apparently.
Oh, right, okay. I'm glad somebody pays attention.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Tracy. I look forward to seeing it finished.
Thank you.
Pat. Oh, Pat, that's very nice. Very neat.
I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, good.
Good, good. I'm glad.
A bit less stressful than last night, Pat.
Definitely.
Thank you. Julienne?
Oh, lovely.
I really
Again,
enjoyed
Julienne,
it. Really
very
good.
neat, very even.
Good. Thank you, darling. Mary next, Mary Swift.
Lovely.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so you're doing the sampler as well?
Yeah. No, it's been great fun. Thank you.
And actually the fabric, if you got the kit that I was doing, there's quite a lot of fabric in there. You can do quite a bit with it. You know, it's surprising.
Yeah.
So no, that looks great. Well done, Mary.
Thank you.
Deborah is next.
Oh, very nice. Is that denim?
Yeah, it's some old denim jeans that put into a square just to have practice on.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well done.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome, Deborah. Thank you. We've got Anne Bradbury next.
Oh, very nice.
Brilliant.
Again, very even, and the repetition of the design, I think, really, you know, if you have had a bit of a wobble, the repetition hides that. It's quite forgiving.
Which is quite good for me because I'm not the neatest of hand sewers, but it's very relaxing.
It is, isn't it? It's surprisingly so.
Yeah. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you.
We've got Laura next.
That looks really nice, Laura. Well done.
Well, there's no stress in that. You would not know that you had a herd of buffalo in the background. Thank you, Laura. We've got.
We
Joey
just all have to go round now and help her move her fridge.
Yeah, exactly.
Hi, Joe.
Hi.
Lovely.
That's really nice.
Thank you. I'm going to start the sampler later, I think.
Yeah.
Yep. Because the thing is, you can make that into a placemat, into a coaster, you know, just in your sewing room to put your coffee on, and you know you've had a great deal of fun with it.
Yeah.
You really do need to fix that clock behind you, though.
I know.
Thank you, Joe. We have got, thank you. We have got Liz up next.
Oh, Liz, that's lovely. I'm amazed by how far everybody's got.
Yeah,
I've really enjoyed it. It's really therapeutic.
Lovely. Thank you, Liz. Bella.
Jill, yeah. Oh, wow.
Wow, look at that flower.
Crikey, you have motored on.
Yeah.
It's been lovely.
Yeah, really.
It's very relaxing, isn't it?
It is.
Well, I'm glad that we got you relaxed, Bella, because for you it was a bit of a tricky start as well, a bit late in because of the email situation, but
it's been lovely.
You did it. Thank you, my darling. Debs is up next.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, brilliant.
Well done, Deborah. You have fun? You're muted.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I have. Thanks.
Good.
Good to see. Thank you. We've got Kath Freeman up next. And Kath, yes, I did get your emails. I've sent you back an email.
Oh, thank you. Sorry about that.
No, don't worry.
Everything's unpredictable.
Oh,
lovely.
And then I went off piste. And
with Gary's mindful. Yes. That's what you made in the class with Gary. Nice.
Yeah, it makes a beautiful embellishment. You don't have to do great big areas of it. You can keep it quite small, like we're doing with the sampler, or with blocks in a quilt, or just something like that on the front of just something that needs that little bit of extra oomph.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Kath. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been fantastic.
Thank you. We've got Vicky in France.
Oh,
there you go, Vicky. Oh my goodness, Vicky, you have been busy. Oh,
wow.
I've been quiet.
I was
you have been very quiet, Vicky.
This is what
Very
happens when
quiet.
Vicky doesn't talk.
I've been concentrated.
There you are, Jane.
Oh,
lovely.
Jane, that looks lovely.
Lovely.
It's the back though, isn't it? Oh, yeah. It looked lovely from the back.
Lovely.
Well done.
Thank you, Jane. Jane, she typed and said that she can't unmute for some reason. We can't speak, so we don't know what's happening. But thank you, Jane. Thank you.
Well, actually, Jane only booked on the other day, so I was quite pleased that she got her kit in time.
Yeah.
I think Monday. Did you buy it on Monday? Or
Yeah. Very good.
So I had to rush back here to get some extra kits in the post. So I'm pleased she got it in time.
Well, thank you, Jane. Guy in London.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, you've got quite far on then.
Yes.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, down.
There you
Down
go.
a bit. I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's just the background thing.
Sorry.
yeah. I
I'm
think
gonna-
it's the background keeps mute. Keeps
Oh.
technology.
Sorry.
No worries. We
Don't
did get
worry.
a quick flash.
We got a quick flash.
There you
Okay.
go. That's
Oh,
better.
lovely.
Yes,
Lovely.
that looks good. And actually, the idea of bulldog clipping it, it's quite a good one. I
Good
might have to
idea.
use that in future.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've got Fenella.
Oh,
Wow.
lovely. Brilliant.
That looks great. Have you had fun?
I've had a lot of fun, actually. I want to just say thank you to my niece Sophie, who's also on this Zoom call, because she bought me this for my birthday.
Oh, how
So
lovely.
it's been really great. Thank you very much.
Happy
Thoroughly
birthday.
enjoyed it.
Bye.
Oh, well, it was last week, so it's not today, but anyway. Thank you.
But what a nice present.
Oh, it was a brilliant present.
Yeah.
Well done, Sophie.
Lovely. Thank you, Fenella. And Jill, Bella's got to go. She said, sorry, I've got to go, everybody, but thank you. Lovely lesson. Really enjoyed this morning. You're welcome, Bella. Well, let's have a look at Sophie then, seeing as she bought the gift. There you are, Sophie.
Wow, look at you.
Oh, that's
Wow.
really
What
nice.
a beautiful frame. Do you know what you're going to do in the middle?
I'll put the blossom in the middle.
Yes, that'll be lovely.
Maybe it's a bit of a too big a border, but I'll see.
Well, the thing is, you could, if you have a look at it afterwards, you could add just a couple of rows of running stitch.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Think about picture frames. When you frame a picture, you might have an ornate picture frame, but then you'll have a small border before you have the picture. So think about running stitch just as a border around the outside to just fill in that space.
Yeah, because I thought it would work, but now I see it's maybe a bit too white, too blank. But yeah, we'll see.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, darling. Let's go to Joe H. There you are, Joe.
Oh,
lovely. Yeah.
Everybody's done so well.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Joe. We've got Lorraine. Lorraine White is next.
Hi, Lorraine. Yeah, you're muted at the moment.
There you go.
There you are.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh,
very
lovely.
nice.
Oh, that's good as well.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah,
very
you've got a lot of
neat,
that done. It
but-
looks neat.
from a distance, but thoroughly enjoyed it. Loved it.
Good.
But when you think about it, when somebody actually sees it on a cushion or something like that, they're not going to get within 2 inches of it to investigate, are they? They're probably going to look at it at least at arm's length. And we're looking at it at that kind of length from you now. And it looks marvellous to us.
Yeah, it does.
I'll insist that they do. Thank you very much. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
You're welcome, Lorraine.
Good.
Thank you. Ruthie. Have we seen you, Ruth? No, we haven't seen you, have we yet, Ruth?
I'm unmuted. There you go.
Oh, lovely. That's great.
Yeah.
Well done, Ruth. That looks great.
Lovely.
Really loved it.
Thank you, Ruthie. Wendy?
Wow, you're cracking on as well.
Yeah.
Really good.
Is that the back? Oh, no.
No, that's the front.
It was just because you had that strand. I thought it was a knot. But no, that looks much better now. You've taken the knot out of the way.
Yeah.
But your centre of your flowers is very, very neat and very even. Well done.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I enjoyed this so much.
Good. Shanna. Let's go to Shanna. Oh, you haven't done anything, have you, Shanna? No, because you haven't got your kit.
I have some of the pieces. I don't have the stencil
templates.
Yeah. So But it's okay. I very much enjoyed the class.
Good.
I've been wanting to do this forever.
Brilliant.
Well, thank you for joining us so early in the morning. Go and have a nap now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have another class in,
3 hours. Yeah, with Nicholas.
Yes. 3 hours. So
it's becoming a regular thing, Shanna, you and I hanging out on a Saturday together.
Yeah. And then I have a funeral between the two. So yeah, no nap today.
Oh, well,
okay. That's a full day.
Yeah, that is a full day, but we hope we've lightened your mood a little this morning.
Yes.
Well, the kit that I got at Amazon, I got the Amazon one from the US. It comes with the little markings on there so that you can make your designs straight.
Right.
It just didn't have, and it had the designs, it just didn't have the stencil in it. So I ordered it late. So that's why it's not there yet.
Okay.
Have we been through everybody? Is there anybody left? Right then, people. Okay, we've come to the end. What a lovely, lovely morning that has been, isn't it?
Yes.
Really, really nice. Huge thanks, of course, to Miss Sarah. There she is, Miss Sarah Payne.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Lovely, lovely teaching.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to go. So listen, thank you all so much for coming. It has been amazing. And do please do some posting of your work and tag us in. All you have to do to tag us in is literally, if you're on Instagram, you put it on your grid and you just write your piece underneath and you just make sure that you say, did this with @CraftyMonkies. We then get a message saying Shanna has mentioned @CraftyMonkies, and then we
and
can
Sarah Payne Quilter too.
And Sarah Payne Quilter. And then we can share that to our Instagram pages. And this, I think it works the same on Facebook as well. So, and we do share everything. So do put your pieces up there, because I'm just going to put that there on Instagram. Right, lovely people. I'll see whoever's coming this afternoon. I'll see you in the class, and see the rest of you hopefully again on another class. And thank you very, very much. And thank you, Sarah.
Thank
as well.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hang on, you won't give motivation. You got to look at the moon tonight, people. And for anybody who's into the kind of woo, it's a moon in Virgo, and that is a healing moon, apparently getting rid of old cycles, old karma, moving into the next few months.
You started that and everyone left, Rachel.
They did. I noticed that. I did. They're still leaving, you see. I'm just going to sit here talking to myself.
Bye.
Bye.
The kids love looking at the moon, so we'll do that.
All right. Yeah, whatever. Just sit here talking about me woo-woo.
We can be our own cyber guild.
Yeah. So I'm just going to see who stays now.
Yeah, like the CraftyMonkies cyber guild.
The cyber guild, yeah. This is it, you see. Only the loyal people are staying now. Yeah, there you are. Who's going? Come on. All right, I'm impressed with you all now. Right.
Bye.
Thanks.
Love you all. See you again.
Bye.
Bye.